I'm going to create an Expo project with that command. Name it media library. We wait for everything to be set up and go to Visual Studio Code with code dot. When that's done, Visual Studio Code will be opened. You choose I'll run npm run research project in the command line. Sorry about that. Well, when I run npm run research project on the command line, what is going to happen is a change in the folder structure. It will remove the boilerplate code from Expo and you now get a much cleaner environment to start coding in. So let me clear the boilerplate code here and write npm expo install expo media library to install this package. Click enter. Oops. Then let me just type the command there again. Probably due to my internet, that's why this happened. So when this is installed, you get a successful message that everything was working perfectly. That's it. Now importing the necessary chunks of code that we'll need. The line 1 and line 2 are React specific logic. Normal imports if you are from the React and React Native world. But the new one is the media library import, so that we can work with the Expo media library. Now we are having two hooks here, which is the use permissions hook from the media library and our use state hook. Use state hook is to store the assets and keep track of them. And the use permissions hook is for permission handling. The permission response is to know the state of the current permission, whether it's been granted or failed, or maybe we can ask for a permission again. And request permission is the logical code that makes the pop-up dialog to request a permission to happen. Use effect here is to load our images in a situation whereby the permission to load images was already granted. So we don't always need to ask the user every time the user opens our application. Now, the load images function is using another media library chunk of code, which is to get assets. Now, the assets, you can specify the type of assets we want. In this case, images. We can also tell the media library how many assets we want to load and how to sort it. Now, set photos here is to just get the assets, which is from the media variable, and put it inside the photos state. So the next chunk of code we'll focus on is the normal JavaScript code, where is the JSX. Now in our JSX, you'll see a chunk of text which is media viewer app. We've styled it a bit to make it look more cleaner and bold. Then we have our ternary operator inside the curly braces to check if a permission wasn't granted. So if it's not granted, you'll see a button that will show that you have to grant media access. And when you click on it, that's when you see the pop-up dialog to accept the needed permission. In this case, the heavy lifting is done by the request permission function that we used in the use permissions hook. So the next thing is the asset loading, which will be handled by React Native's image. So we also have the looping through the photos. Okay, the photos are from the photos state that we had. That will handle the assets streaming. And then we style our images, the image the way we want. And the key is actually something that is dynamically created by the media library as we are looping through our images with the map function. The source is the file path of our images, and then that's actually the code in a nutshell. We add some extra styling here and there. For example, border radius to ensure that the edges of the image is not fully sharp, but it had some round stuff around it. And we just adjust the width and height of the image. Now, we make the image to be a flexible image. So, and we can wrap up. So type the command that you see on this screen. Is going to create a development build for you. The reason why we are creating a normal development build is that you can run it normally as an Expo development server, but because of the permission restrictions in Android and iOS, you will not actually see the assets. So when you create your development build with EAS, we get the option for us to use all the native permissions and all of that, like a full-blown Android application. So when the build is done, you're going to see a QR code when the build is completed, so that you can install it on your Android physical device. But preferably, if you have a virtual device, it will give you that option to install it on it. So when you fully install the development build, you type npm expo start on your terminal to start up the development server. Because we are going to use a development build, Expo will automatically switch to a development build for you, not a development server. Now, when everything is fine and working, you'll see such an application like this with the application name that you used, and it will look quite similar to Expo, Expo Go. But in this case, to start the development build, to see your application, enter the URL that you see under the QR code if you're on a virtual device, and the application will load. In this case, it's called Media Library Course. Now, when it gets loaded, you see the button that I was talking about. Click on it to grant your permissions. So it will let you to grant it will ask you a permission when you click on it. So when you allow the permission to work out, and when that's done, you'll see the assets. It's taking quite some time, but if everything was done right, you'll see the assets that will be loaded up. You'll see exactly 10 images. Now, when you're on a virtual device, I recommend that you actually put in some images or some assets on the virtual device so that you can see this output. But on a physical device, make sure to take some images on your physical device so that you can see the assets. So in this case, as you can see, we've seen the images that we need.